Bentonville, even the Gun Hill, from Freeman Street to Prospect Avenue, Fordham Road, Cobb City to Elder Avenue, Valley Park, Eaton Wall to Bronx River, Bronx Deal, Soundview, Esbar, baby. I'm boogie down like this Choke King, man. We go within the playground.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Podcast Land. Linda Collazo is here. Oh, I'm supposed to say Mezzo-Soprano Linda Collazo is here. We're going to talk and sing opera. I'm not going to sing opera. She's going to sing opera. But, you know, you don't know this, but this is our 7th episode of the BRONX MUSIC PODCAST. That's right. And for the first 6, I was uncertain how to greet people. Because do I say good afternoon, good morning, good evening? I mean, you know, the people who are listening to this in Lebanon are kind of wondering, well, what time is it there? But now I realize that on my way over here today that I was going to say, hi, everybody in podcast land. So I think I've come up with a pretty good way of doing it. Anyway, we do this in front of a live audience at the Artist on City Island. It is last year known as the best concert venue in the Bronx, and this year, please vote for the Artist as the best concert venue in the Bronx. Yes, applause, please. We want to, ahead of time, thank our videographer, is George Williams. Nice to see you, George. Our able and capable production assistant is Joshua Cruz. Thank you, Joshua. And of course, Elliot, it's his house, but Monica really runs it maybe in some ways, somewhat. Anyway, so here we are. Mezzo-Soprano Linda Collazo. We met when you rehearsed, now we just said it a moment ago, at the Martina Arroyo Foundation's Prelude to Performance program, right?
Wow.
For an upcoming performance of the opera Falstaff.
Yes.
Right.
Wow.
And now
That was a long time ago.
let's just embarrass you as much as we can. This was taken off of your website. Mezzo Linda Collazo has one of the most natural and lyrical voices that I've heard in a long time from the Classical Music Network. And the other comment was a voice that is elastic and luxurious. And that was by someone named ARS Raving Mad. So
yeah, there's some interesting blogs.
Linda, how does a young woman from Hunts Point become an opera singer in the place of hip hop and doo-wop and Latin jazz and salsa? Oh, and by the way, in Hunts Point, Linda Collazo sings opera.
Yeah, I mean, I know that that's what makes me unique, is being from the Bronx, particularly Hunts Point.
Well, the question is,
opera.
being from the Bronx makes you unique, or singing opera from the Bronx?
It's vice versa. It depends on where I am. When I'm in the Bronx and I say I'm an opera singer, the people are like, what? And then when I'm singing opera all over the country, and I'm like, I'm from the South Bronx, they're like, what?
Well, so you really are important at changing people's perceptions of our hometown.
For sure.
So how did it happen?
You know, I think definitely it was sort of God's plan. That's like what I can really describe it as. Since I was
that's a nice answer.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite answer the question, but I'll accept it for the moment.
Since I was 7 years old, I loved music. My mom, this is like my little sob story, but it is true. When I was 3, I had a febrile seizure, and so my mom thought that I had brain damage. And so my mother, she loves salsa, you know, like a Bronx woman does, like a Bronx Latina does. And so she was like, okay, I'm going to put my child in music classes. And so, you know, she put me in like Mommy and Me stuff, like Mozart stuff. And then eventually she found like free programs. She put me in everything. It was like the Renaissance Youth Center in the Bronx.
As early as 3 years old?
Yeah, but more when I was 7. So starting when I was 7, then she put me in like the Renaissance Youth Center to like do all the music programs to see if anything stuck. And then she found the Point CDC, and then that was where everything was free. So then my mom put me in like...
So you were, I have to stop here for
okay.
a moment. The Renaissance Youth Center is one of the most wonderful places in the Bronx, and they do music. At some point, we're going to have them here, and we'll do stuff with them. And then you mentioned the Point, of course, out there in Hunts Point.
Yeah.
Another one of the most wonderful youth programs in the Bronx or anywhere.
Yeah.
And so it just reinforces for me that if we do this with our kids,
Yeah.
They'll all be opera singers.
Yeah.
No.
Well, maybe, but so what really happened was my sister and I were both put in music classes, but I was the one that like really became addicted to it. And so.
And what kind of music did you do there?
I mean, it was, the point was where I settled, right? I was only at the Renaissance Youth Center for like a couple months. The point was where I stayed because it was completely free and because there was a man there that I owe so much credit to. His name is Craig Tyndall. He was the music director there when I was a child. And I remember, and I forget this, but now I remember how valuable this was to me at that age. He would told me, he's like, Linda, you are a superstar. He would tell me that, and he would tell me that every day. I would,
and so this is like not only 7 years old, but growing up as a 9-year-old youngster in the Bronx. Somebody out there was reinforcing your ego and making you feel like you really could do something. Boy, talk about a lesson.
I know.
Boy, there is lessons in this.
Yeah, and as I get older, I realize how important that was to me at that age. Wow. But when I was at the point, I was a little rock star. Like, I played more funk, and I wasn't really a classical musician. I played more like pop songs and bass electric guitar.
You played the bass and electric
piano,
guitar.
And then at school, I mean, I really loved music. And at St. Athanasius, I was playing the saxophone. Like, I loved music, but what really...
But all of those places were able to put instruments in your hands.
Yes, and also it was also my mom. Like I have to give also credit to my mother. My mother was the person that bought the piano with my father, and she was the one that got me an electric bass guitar, got me a saxophone.
Because they knew the value of this for a person, regardless if you were going to make your career in living out of it. Yeah.
So for me, it was like I was just bitten by the bug. Like, whether or not it was opera, and it's kind of funny. I look at it now, and I'm like, I always knew I was going to be a musician. There were times where I remember the band instructor at St. Athanasius, I approached him and I was like, I want to be a music teacher. And then he was like, oh, okay, so this is what you have to do. And I was like, okay. And then when I switched schools I went to Icon, Carl C. Icon Charter School, number 1.
I don't know it. Oh, an Icon, ICAHN.
Yeah.
I was thinking ICON.
No.
Icon, of course, one of the Icon schools. Yes,
I went
of
to
course.
the first one. And and when I was there, I remember in the 5th grade, my teacher, Miss Soyola, was like, okay, I want you guys all to draw a picture of what you want to be when you're older. And, I just drew a picture of me playing piano and singing.
Wow.
Like, it was I knew it.
All this is absolutely interesting and fascinating. And the reason that we do this, because not only does it underscore who you are, but it also tells a story about the Bronx and what do we need to do to make people successful and people to grow up healthfully. But you still haven't answered the question.
I know. It leads into it.
Don't worry. Got to opera.
So what happened was I was so into music, and then I would secretly write these songs, and I would sing pop songs, but I was not a strong pop singer. And so for some reason, and this is why I said it was God's plan, for some bizarre reason, when it came time to audition for high schools, I applied for LaGuardia High School, and I applied for piano, singing, and art. And I don't know what came over me to apply for singing.
And you had not been a singer to that point.
I sang in the bands a couple times, but I wasn't the lead singer.
Wow.
I was like the background vocals. Like there was someone else that was the lead singer. Like I was not like confident.
But you aspired to that.
I loved singing, right? But I was still very self-conscious, very insecure. I felt more comfortable just playing the piano. And then I auditioned for LaGuardia for all 3 of those focuses, and I got in for all of them. So that was, I remember...
So that was part of the plan out there that said, well, wait a minute, you can do. You can do.
So I could have been an artist, a pianist, or a singer.
Well, now you're probably all of the above.
Yeah. But... So then what ended... This is like a really crazy... This is a nuts story. This is a really insane story. So... Then I remember my mom...
We're working on it. Okay, go ahead.
My mom, when I got those acceptance letters, I mean, first of all, everyone at the Point CDC was like, Linda got into LaGuardia High School. I was the only person in my school that got into LaGuardia High School.
Wow.
Everyone was like blown away. They were like, whoa. And I remember Craig Tyndall, he's really important to my life as a child. he literally told me when I got into that school, he was like, Linda, he's like, you are going to meet people at that school that you're going to know for the rest of your life. He was like, these are people that like are going to be so important to your professional career. You have no idea.
You know, my heart skipped a beat when you
Yeah.
said that. It's so beautiful and so
Yeah.
wonderful. A lot of people may say that about a lot of people, but you embody
Yeah.
exactly what he was talking about. Wow.
So then fast forward to how I got into opera, right? So my mom was not.
Yeah, I would. Let's do that.
My mom was not.
We're 10 minutes in. We're still trying to get there.
This is a really like interesting story. My mom was not ecstatic about me being a singer. She was actually like, okay, I want you to be a pianist. So I actually picked piano at LaGuardia.
Okay.
So then the first week I was put in the most advanced piano class. And I remember I went home crying. I literally had to sleep with my mother. And I was like, I can't be in this program because I'm not a good enough pianist. Because I came into this class where there were these prodigies playing Beethoven and Mozart sonatas like nobody's business. I literally was like, I do not belong here. And so I remember I wrote a pros and cons list. And I was like, okay, I might ask to switch to the vocal program. And one of the cons was that I would be singing opera. I still have that pros and
This is
cons
pretty crazy.
list. I still have that pros and cons
I'm still
list.
trying to, close the circle
And
here.
so I begged Miss Fleischer at LaGuardia High School. I went to her office week 1. I was like, I made a mistake. I was like, I do not belong in the piano program. I was like, can I please try voice? And she was like, okay. So then they put me in the voice program. So what happens in the voice program at LaGuardia is that you are put in a chorus, and in the beginning you do something called sectionals. So sectionals is when they hear you soloistically in front of the entire class. We're talking a class of like 108 kids. They hear you in front of everyone to put you either as an alto or a soprano. And I remember it was Mr. Marwa. He was, going up the scales with me, doing exercises to see where my voice went. And I remember the immediate moment that I opened my mouth and I was naturally able to sing opera. He was like, they were just like...
Yeah, and what did you sing? Did they give you notes?
No, so they played the piano and then it's like... in front of 100 kids.
And you could just do it.
And I could just do it. And he was like, okay, you're an alto. And then I just started singing in the choir, classical style, and it just was like everything fit. And I could sing it, and I loved it.
And you loved it.
And it was the most emotional outlet for me.
Now, what about the language? I mean, do you understand the language, or do you just appreciate the sounds of the words and are able to interpret it?
So a lot of opera is like study. It's like a lot of academic study. And so as I progressed as an opera singer, like at LaGuardia High School, they taught you how to translate songs. So each semester, right, from when I was 13 years old, every semester at school there was one semester focused on Italian, then another semester focused on French music.
So really,
then
LaGuardia
German music.
put you into all those things to move you forward.
Yep.
Wow.
And so
Again,
then,
excuse me,
No,
I
it's
have
okay.
to make the social comment. What a lesson for all of us about what we need in our public high schools to help young people achieve. And many of your classmates are not doing what you're doing, but I'm sure they benefited from what they learned.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I have to make
No, it's
that point.
okay.
It's so
okay.
important.
Yeah, I know, and I think as I get older, I kind of see that I'm sort of that manifestation of all these combos.
We have. Let's go back to my first statement about when we met, and then over time, and again, I would not have remembered, but you have all the links on your website.
Right.
It's lindacollazo.com.
Yes.
Okay, we're promoting it all the time. Okay. But then I noticed you have been on the Bronx Buzz promoting when you sang at Carnegie Hall, promoting, I forget some of the other stuff. But I look at you now and I think about that first time we met. I can see how you have changed. I can see what it's like to interview now versus what it was. I guess it must have been 5 years ago. But I want you to tell me, in between that time and now, you just spent how long in Orlando with the Orlando Opera Company?
Opera Orlando, I was there since September. I was there from September to May. And then I got another contract with Charlottesville Opera, and I was there for a month and a half.
So how has all that changed that young woman that I met in 2019 to where you are now, that the minute you sat down, you were ready to talk, you were all happy, you were like, I got stories to tell you. You were telling us stories before we even started. Talk to me just about the growth of a person and what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I will say...
Is it the performing?
Sorry, what?
Is it the performing that changes you?
No, I think it's everything. It's a mixture of performing, and it's a mixture of life and time and consistency. I think, like, as I've gotten older, this is very personal, and I think you know this. I told you about this. In 2022, I got really sick. And it was it was a very serious sickness, and I had to stop singing for 5 months. And I remember there was a moment where I was like, this is it. I was like, I don't think I'm going to do this anymore. And it was also because...
My heart skipped a beat.
Yeah, it was also because, like, you know, the industry, like any industry, I mean, I really compare the opera industry to Hollywood because it's very political, and it's not fair. The industry is not fair.
In what way? You know I'm not going to let you get away with that.
It's not fair. A lot of... I've seen this, you know, people who are wealthy tend to have an upper hand. Politics plays a major part. If you don't...
Then I'm going to ask the boldest and most obvious question. So being a young woman from the South Bronx is a lot different than saying, I don't want to cast aspersions on any other place, but as opposed to say, I went to some school, a private school in Scarsdale.
Yeah, I mean, like,
wow.
I'm a kid that came from the South Bronx, and I went to a CUNY, and I'm up against...
Which CUNY?
Queens College.
Okay, go ahead.
And I'm up against kids that go to Juilliard and paid the full price to go to Juilliard. And, you know, and I hate to say it, but unfortunately in my business, those things matter. And so there was a point where when I got really sick, where I thought about everything. I was like, you know, I don't know. And the reason why I'm confident now is because I was so close to quitting at that time, and then that was when I got Carnegie Hall, Lincoln Center, and Opera Orlando. And so it was kind of like, and this is why I say it's God's plan, that was kind of like some divine...
So in other words, it didn't let you quit.
Some divine intervention was like, Linda, you can't stop.
Right, why quit before you get a chance to sing at Carnegie Hall? And I remember we spoke before that. All right, do you practice every morning?
I mean...
You would just do... That was better than the that I could do.
I give myself at least 3 hours before I sing.
So the answer is no, I don't practice, but I do 3 hours.
I give myself at least 3 hours before, like, singing, like, to wake up the voice, you know. Because when you wake up, I mean, this is like a technical thing.
I want to hear that.
When you wake up, your voice is stiff. Your voice is literally, it just is, scientifically, it's just like kind of stuck and thick. Your folds are thick, so they can't really sing as well.
So you need 3 hours to prepare.
So you need 3 hours to get your voice, like, waking up, talking, you know.
Do you gargle with salt water?
When I'm sick, yes.
When you're sick. I had when I was learning to do radio, I had a teacher who told me to gargle with salt water.
Yeah.
So I was curious if you...
It's a disinfectant.
I haven't done it in a long time.
It's really good for you. Like, the moment you feel like you're getting sick, it does...
So do you sing every day and warm up for 3 hours before you sing?
I don't warm up for 3 hours. I warm up for like 20, 30 minutes, and then I sing my repertoire. I try to sing every day, but sometimes, you know, like right now I'm at like an off period. Like I've been working for 10 months straight singing, and so I'm kind of giving myself grace and relaxing. But I do, you know, it's part of my regiment. You know, like people work out. I love singing. Singing makes me
During that period of time, did you miss singing, or were you consumed with getting better, so it was like, what can I do?
When I was sick?
When you were ill?
When I was ill, I think I did miss singing, but I think I was really more like angry at the business. And then when I got the work, right, the major work, like the Lincoln Center, the Carnegie Hall, or Opera Orlando, I started singing again after literally a 5-month break. And I was like, wow, like this isn't necessarily about the business. Like, this is about who I am. And I was like, this is...
And then when you totaled up
Yeah.
all those things that you've told us about,
Yeah.
and you said, you know what else am I going to do?
Yeah,
and opportunity knocks. I mean, no, I
Yeah.
don't think I'm going to sing at Carnegie Hall.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to do that. How was that, by the way?
It was beautiful.
How were the acoustics in the hall?
It was, oh God. The first time I debuted a year ago. The first time was like scary as hell. It was like, I remember I went up there.
And you were a soloist.
Yeah, I went up there and it's like you feel like an ant. Like you're so small. That hall is like, it is huge. And I remember the moment I opened my mouth, I was like, okay, Linda, like you can't push. Like, don't try to sing more than you
Just
need
be
to.
relaxed.
Like, just you need to relax. And so the first time I performed at Carnegie Hall, I was like, I don't want to say I didn't enjoy it, but I was really stressed. So I couldn't like really let go. The second time I sang at Carnegie Hall, which was this past January, or it was not January, I think it was like April. The second time I performed at Carnegie Hall, that was when I was like, all right, Linda, you know the hall, you know how it feels to sing in this hall.
This is my house.
You're gonna enjoy it. So I was just so happy, and it was
cool.
so fun. But that hall is crazy. Like you can't as an opera singer,
Yes.
we are taught to always gauge the spaces that we sing in, right? Because we don't rely on a microphone. So sometimes a space is dry and sometimes a space is live, right? So like if a room has like carpets everywhere or a lot of stuff on the wall, typically when you sing, the sound just drops. Like you don't hear yourself.
Yeah, but there it goes to the upper deck, to the sixth balcony.
Shockingly, no.
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 Oh, I'm shocked.
The hall is so big that you actually cannot really hear yourself. Because it
the sound
it
sucks
just
you,
vanishes.
sucks it out of you.
It literally just vanishes. Yeah. And so like for me, I was like, okay, Linda, you're gonna sing the most relaxed you've ever sung. You're gonna sing quietly, because I had 30 minutes of music to sing. Right. I needed to like really make sure I made it through that.
So we're going to have you sing, folks. Don't go away. She's really going to sing. It's not just rumor.
Right.
When you walked in here and we needed to do a sound check, you didn't rehearse for 3 hours. You didn't prepare. But I have to tell you, you blew us all away. So I don't know about this whole preparation thing.
Right.
But you walked in the door and 5 minutes later you were doing your thing.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
It's just part of who I am.
So
what I do.
let's get you to sing something,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Okay.
Sure.
So we're going to just readjust the microphone,
Okay.
and you'll get comfortable. And ladies and gentlemen, I will do the introduction when she's ready.
Okay.
So let's get you to sit up. We'll raise this up just a little bit. There's a good. Except that I have no idea. George. Mezzo-Soprano Linda Collazo on the Bronx Music Podcast, singing Habanera by Bizet.
te croit vite, il te tient. L'amour est au fond de Bohème, il n'a jamais connu de loi. Si tu ne m'aimes pas, je t'aime. Si je t'aime, prends garde à toi. Si tu ne m'aimes pas, si tu ne m'aimes pas, je t'aime. Mais si je t'aime, si je t'aime, prends garde à toi.
Woo!
Thank you.
Sit down, we'll just adjust the microphones. Wow. Linda, you are.
Aw,
Hold on.
thank you.
Yeah, people here are pretty happy. That I don't even have words to say. You are just absolutely wonderful.
Oh,
and what
thank
really
you.
makes me really happy, that's Bronx music.
Oh, yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
that's who we are in the Bronx. We have every kind of music. I have tears in my eyes, Linda. You're just so beautiful, and so it just sounds amazing. I can't imagine anybody.
Thank you,
She's comforting me.
Gary.
I appreciate that.
Well, I mean, like, you were the first person to give me coverage.
Yay! All right, come on, a little applause for that.
You really were. And then,
Okay.
I think from that, I learned, okay, I have to develop relationships with these journalists.
Oh, there you go.
And then now it's like,
And
I was
now
on,
we're
you
like
know,
old friends. But
Yeah.
one of the things that I remember from when we did that first thing, again, I think it was 2018 or 19, it was a play. You know, you're acting. Are you singing while acting?
Yeah.
Or are you acting while singing? You know what I mean? And then does that become a difficult thing because you're a singer, let's
Yeah.
face it, but you got to play the roles, right?
I think it's definitely acting while singing.
Okay, because you're a singer first.
Yes.
Oh.
I think that's the hardest part. Becoming an opera singer, it's like developing a fine wine. You know, I'm only 28 years old. When I was at Opera Orlando...
28, you say?
Yeah, when I was at Opera Orlando, the principal artists, you know, Tosca, for example, or Tosca, like they're like late 30s, early 40s, sometimes 50s. It's like developing a fine wine to become an artist. And so what happens with the training of becoming a singer, right? Like I went to college for it. I still study with my teacher. When I do these programs across the country, I'm still training. And
ladies and gentlemen, what you heard was the training session. Good night.
So what happens, and I am still developing. What happens is you develop a technique, right? So, for example, my technique was different when I was 13, 14, 15, 20. Now, as I got older, my voice has changed, right?
I think you're deeper than you
Yeah,
are.
of course. So your voice literally changes as you get older. And so as you develop your technique, right? Like my technique is much more secure than it was when I was younger.
Give us all a sample of what technique you could possibly be referring to.
Okay, so, ooh, wow. All right. This is a lot.
Th-
So
w-
so
w-
a lot of singing is like scientific. It's a lot of brain work. So like when I study the voice, for example, there's a mechanism in the back of the throat, and this is why I teach. There's a mechanism in the back of the throat that's like at the roof of your mouth. If you like grab your tongue and touch it in the back of your mouth.
I'm trying.
It's like a piece.
And if
of,
you think I'm going to end up being able to do that,
yeah,
we're
it's
out.
a piece of soft tissue. Do you feel that little soft, squishy thing?
Yeah, I guess.
That is called the soft palate. So it's called the soft palate. So when we yawn, it goes up. When we yawn, it goes up. So when we sing opera, right, the reason why we don't sing with microphones is because when we sing opera, we rely on our skull to create the microphone effect.
Wow.
So just like a guitar, right? The string vibrates and the sound comes from the vibrations going around the wood of the guitar.
Right.
When we sing opera, there's a vibration that happens in our voices that it vibrates on our like literal skulls.
And so that's why, compared to singing
Yeah.
rock and roll or even hip hop or anything like that, it has that
Yes.
that large,
Yeah.
so that you're not only using what traditionally we use for our voices,
Yeah.
but you're using literally
Yes.
the
Everything.
whole, wow.
The whole skull. And so when we like raise our soft palate, for example, like we do when we yawn, as opera singers, we raise it to sing high notes, right? The higher I sing, the more space is required in my mouth.
Wow.
So that I can sing without using my throat, right? Like singing high notes, I mean, without the soft palate being raised, it can really hurt and harm the voice. So that is like what we do.
That is amazing, and that's the kind of technique.
That is what's developed over years.
Wow.
Several years.
And so
yeah.
even though, like you were talking about singers you were working with who were older,
Yeah.
they have developed that technique even more.
Yes, it literally is like, and I'll say this, I think this is one of my biggest lessons this year from observing the principal artists that I've seen perform. It is like, I don't even, how do I describe it? Yeah, it is like witnessing just like God himself when you see magnificent singing. And
Even more magnificent than
Yes.
what we just.
Yeah, it's
All
like.
right, listen.
Yeah.
I pulled off your website. First place winner in the Bronx Arts Ensemble and Woodmere competitions, the finalist in the Grand Concourse competition, SES Performing Arts competition, the Roberto Desimone Memorial Aria competition, Canto Latino, it said Jane and Paul Smaldone Memorial Scholarship. On and on. I mean, it's a whole page full of stuff.
Yeah.
Does that embarrass you?
No, I mean, that's part of it. Being an opera singer, it's like you're always applying to things. You always have to be competing in competitions,
I was gonna ask you about
performing,
that.
everything.
I was going to ask you about that because, we communicated after you came back from Orlando, and I said, "So what are you up to?" And you said, "Well, I'm just generating more stuff." Is that a constant thing? You got to find gigs and stuff
Yes,
like that?
so like a big thing I also learned this year is like I lived with singers for an entire year. And so I was like with singers that they always had their laptop open and they were always applying to things. There's this website that we go on every day. It's called Yap Tracker. And YAP stands for Young Artist Program, and it's like Indeed for opera singers. And so every day there are new listings of new opportunities, and you have to go through every single listing and see which
and
one
find
you're
an
going to apply
opportunity,
to.
and then you apply. You send them video
Yes,
or something.
and you send them videos. You send them. It's like a whole your resume, your performance resume, which is different from a work resume.
You could, of course, send them the Bronx Music Podcast
Yeah,
and
and
say, "I talk a good game too."
but
I'm
then,
trying, Linda. I'm
but
trying to help.
But the way that it works, just to give you perspective of how competitive this industry is, I kid you not, like Orlando, every single performance, my boss would say in the intro, she's like, "We have picked these 4 singers out of 400 applicants."
Wow.
And then Charlottesville Opera, when I was there in Virginia this past summer, they were like, "We picked these 12 singers or 16 singers out of 600 applicants." That's how it
on
is.
the microphone.
Yeah,
Well, congratulations.
it's tough.
Is there music that you have been asked to sing that is particularly difficult? And then we're going to have you sing something else.
Yes, I mean like
Like what?
coloratura, which is like when
I wouldn't know. But
coloratura
okay.
is when it's like fast moving, like the music is just it moves a lot, like, and you have to be very.
And do you learn the music from a score, or do you
Yeah.
learn from just hearing?
No, I mean it's a mixture of both, but typically the score. And like I'm very fortunate that I have piano training, so I've been able to like learn things well because I'm able to play my
Right.
notes and stuff like that. So that's like what I've done.
Well, let's have you do now. I'm gonna we'll set up the microphone again, but I'm gonna try to how do you pronounce his name?
Monsalvace.
Monsalvace.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the composer.
Yep.
Okay, I can probably manage the name of the track. All right, we're gonna have you sing again, and then I'll introduce it. Here we
Okay.
go. Yay! All right. This is going well. Mostly because you didn't ask me to sing. And that would have been a disaster.
Right.
You say what? Bob Dylan
I
sings
know.
opera? All right. George, you okay? Okay. Monsalvace.
I know.
That sounds like something I would have like in a nice restaurant. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, on the Bronx Music Podcast, it is Mezzo-Soprano Linda Collazo, and she is singing, and I'm really going to try to pronounce this correctly, Canción de Cuna para Dormir by Monsalvace. Wow. All right, one more time. All right, now that she's back sitting down, we can all applaud again.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was, you know, what is amazing is didn't understand a word, but it was so moving and so
it's
beautiful.
a very powerful piece.
It is a very, very powerful piece. You know, and I had a question all lined up for right after, but when I heard it, it just took everything out of me.
It's a lullaby. It's a lullaby, and it's reflective of slavery in Cuba. It's about slavery in Cuba. It's about a mother singing a lullaby to a black baby, and saying that, you know, one day you're gonna be, what's it called, like someone that wears a button up instead of working in the fields, working inside. That's what that
white collar
about.
versus blue collar.
Yeah.
You know, people ask me, you know, my television program and even the podcast, they say, you know, did you have a good show? And I always say, it's a good show for me if I learn something. And your description of the difference between opera singing and developing opera singing versus maybe something else is really something I learned from. Thank you, thank you so much, and I think we all learned something from that. I want to just talk about your teaching.
Sure.
You've been teaching for a while, and what do you do?
So yeah, I've been teaching since I was 18, and I teach piano and I teach singing.
And why do you do it? Do you love it?
I do. I love my students. I think I learn a lot through teaching, and I love talking to my students. Like, I have, I teach kids, but I also teach adults and teenagers, and just to see their progression through life, and then also expressing themselves through music and proving them wrong. Sometimes I have students that really struggle to match pitch, or they have a lot of confidence issues, and like developing that. Like for me, my philosophy as a teacher is not necessarily to like create the next Mariah Carey. It's more
although that wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt, but it's more to like, like everyone deserves to know how to play an instrument or how to sing and be confident in that.
I'm going to make this guess that because of the way that you learned music and developed music, you have compassion for that and want to share that.
No, I do.
And understand the development of it. One of the things that you told me, and which I've learned, you also teach virtually.
Yes.
How does a person teach virtually?
It's actually wonderful.
Really? How does that? And that was born from the pandemic. Wow. But how do you do that?
It's wonderful. I teach kids majority of my students are online, so I teach like kids all over the country and adults all over the country.
One at a time or a class?
One at a time, yeah. So it's like between 30 minutes and 1 hour sessions.
And so they'll sit in front of the piano and play, and maybe you'll share music.
Yeah,
and
so it depends. It depends, like if they want piano or voice. When they do voice, I play the piano and they sing, and we like go through everything. When it's piano, they have their own piano and I have my piano, and then we do something called, technology is amazing. We do something called screen sharing, and so it's like we can be literally on the same page.
Wow.
And then like they follow my mouse, and I'm like, okay, we're here. Can you do this? And then there are like websites that are like games, teaching you how to sight read and like things like that. So that has. It's cool, and I've managed to help a lot of people, and it's fun because especially with what I do, I travel a lot when I sing, so it's nice to be able to teach while I'm away.
To teach while you're away, make a couple of dollars, we can't deny that.
Yeah.
The best way for people who are interested is lindacollazo.com/lessons.
Yes.
Okay? That's the best way to get to you to do that. Most memorable moment as an opera singer? Or moments?
Wow.
So many, too many to mention. By the way, if you look at our website, lindacollazo.com, and then there's a list of, it says resume. So I thought, that would be kind of interesting. And I've been around for a long time, and I have a pretty extensive resume. There's like a list that goes on forever of all her performances. You've done a lot.
I know. I have.
But anyway, go ahead. Most memorable?
Oh, my God.
Was it Carnegie Hall, or that was too scary to be memorable?
I think it was the second time. The second time
was the most memorable.
Beautiful. I felt like I was just, I don't know, like I felt so confident and I was so in the zone. And I just felt like I was an artist. Like I felt like I was, as an opera singer, we think so much about technique that sometimes the artistry is lost. And I finally feel like I'm at a place where I can actually make art now instead of being so like, okay, is my soft palette up? Is my breath ready? Is my I feel like it's coming together. So I feel much more like I can enjoy it.
You performed in front of an orchestra? That must be thrilling.
It was just piano
and you.
And,
and did you do like one song, or did you do a couple?
30 minutes worth of music.
30 minutes.
Yes.
Wow.
And it was wonderful.
Listen, we've never done this. Does anybody have any questions out there? You can shout them out, and I would repeat them. If not, it's okay. I don't want to put anybody. No, because usually I ask all the questions. It's okay. You do, you'll ask her afterwards. Go ahead.
Yeah.
The comment, in case we didn't get it on the audio, was that it was actually my wife, Suzanne, said that she knew that it was a mother talking to a child by the way she sang it. So that is beautiful.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
There you go.
that's very
Listen,
sweet.
Linda, you are just delightful, and I can't. We're going to make this a monthly show because we'll have her back.
Sure.
But listen, so we don't know when the next gigs are. You're just out there.
I'm auditioning now. I'm back home and I'm auditioning. I'm just getting ready for whatever happens.
And you'll let us know what goes
Yes.
on. And listen,
Yeah.
folks, music lessons, singing lessons. Who could be better? LindaCollazo.com.
Oh, that's very sweet.
Lessons.
Thanks.
And I have learned a lot today, and I have been charmed, absolutely charmed by this woman who's sitting next to us.
That's so sweet.
And so now next month, I can't tell you yet. We didn't fully confirm, but we're going to have a good show like we always do every month. First Sunday of every month here at The Artist. Used to be The Starving Artist, but maybe they're doing a little better than they used to. So now it's just The Artist on City Island. Let's see, I got the address wrong last time. It was 249 City Island Avenue is correct. George Williams, my man, I call him GW. He is the videographer. Joshua Cruz is there. We thank Jenny Sweets. You had one. The first thing Linda said, I got to taste these pastries. So we're going to have some pastries. Elliot and Monica, the best. And peace and love. And we'll be back next month with more. Okay, see you around town.
Yay! Thank you so much.
Bronx deal, sound view, S bar, baby. I'm boogie down like